All right, so Bryant McKinney has not joined the show this evening yet, and I haven't heard from him. So we're hoping that he joins like in a live air type of capacity, but we shall see. So we're going to jump into the allotment of topics, and these are all topical from the past week, per usual. The first one that I noticed was the issue of secondary helmets. NFL is authorizing each team to use a helmet of yesteryear of their choosing. So that excited the masses in the sense that they could see the Oiler Derrick for the Titans, even though those have no direct correlation to each other any longer. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that people hated when they had them, the beige ones, but now they love them and want them back. I don't quite get that. But I saw that and you immediately think that's kind of cool, but then you realize that the Vikings helmet is their signature and it never really changes aside from some gloss or a matte finishing. So I want to ask Raun first, if the Vikings indeed jump on the 2022 train of having a chosen throwback with an alternate helmet, what the hell would that look like?
So I think, one, I hope that they never go to those, like the 09 championship, like those jerseys, because I hated those jerseys and those sparkly helmets were awful. So I wish Bryant was on to kind of get his take on those, because that just felt like an ugly, just everything was bad about it. So I do like, obviously, our current color scheme. I love the matte helmets. These are my favorite helmets that we've had. But the throwbacks that I like, I think we've worn them a few years ago where I don't even know what era it was, but it was pre-Moss, but it was kind of that darker purple. I think those uniforms should be the go-to throwbacks. As far as helmets, like you said, our helmet is pretty much stayed the same. So if they even use the current helmet to go along with throwback jerseys, that would work. But I would like to see some of those concepts that are out there that they have on like the Vikings websites with either the all white. We can't really support an all black as of yet, because that would look odd with the purple jersey. But I think all white or all gold might look bad too. But I think that at least would mix well with our color scheme. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do, and I guess we'll see what happens. We'll probably drop the ball on it, because I feel like when it comes to jerseys, we don't typically do the best. So
when you talk about the 09 jerseys, you don't prefer those. Are you talking about the time we threw back in 09 and also wore throwbacks?
No, yeah, I think those throwbacks that they wore when Favre was here, those are I think the best throwbacks that we would have. But the actual jerseys that we wore that year, I hope they don't throw back to those, because that white stripe that was just random. That's a very ugly jersey.
I don't remember a throwback that year. What game did they wear it on?
I can't remember which one, but I know they Favre wore it at one point. It had the gray face mask on the helmets. But I think it's back to like the Ahmad Rashad years, I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Raun is out on the standard 2009 uniforms, but would like to pay homage to the throwbacks from that year, which they wore that year, which is more towards yesteryear decades. Kyla, what would be your preference for an alternate 2022 uniform?
I'm so with you. Ron, I despise those jerseys so much. I used to have one, like a Peterson one, and I think I donated it because I was like, ew, there's so many better jerseys I own now. So I feel you so much on that. I don't know. I love, like it's so true, because with so many jerseys, with so many teams, when I think about it, so many teams have had so many different variations, but it's hard because the Vikings have generally stayed the same. But I definitely, when I look back at photos clips from old games back in like the 70s, I love like just the simplicity of those jerseys and like that really, really deep purple. I'm a fan of those. And you guys might hate me for saying this, but like the matte helmet is my absolute favorite. I think it's perfect. But I was thinking about this the other day, which I think fans would hate because they look too much like Saints helmets. But what if one time we went for like an all gold helmet or something like that?
Man, they could like probably, I don't know, would it come off as yellow though? Because I threw that idea out there about a yellow jersey last week on Twitter, and it was met by universal disdain.
Oh yeah, I saw. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I think they thought that I endorsed a full switch to it all of the time or something.
That's where I like the idea of potentially having a black. Like we've seen concepts of it over the years, and the deep or the purple that we have is so like if you do it right, it can stand out. And it like, I love the color scheme that we have, like, so we don't need to get too outlandish with it, but mix in some of those concepts and just let that purple kind of pop and kind of go from there. It's the NFL is always going to market the way they can, so they'll probably throw out like a handful of terrible jersey ideas and just so they can sell it and see what happens. So, but we'll see.
Sally, what's your dream scenario for this?
I mean, I really like the black idea too. I can't believe that they have never done it. I think, was it like in 98 or 99? I remember there were some Moss jerseys that people had in black, but I don't think they ever wore them, but they were for sale. I think like for night games, instead of doing color rush, do something like that sometime. But yeah, I got to agree. 09 is the absolute worst. The white paneling on the side is the worst. The piping, it's also the piping, like the raised like stitching. Everything about it is bad. And people that still wear those to US Bank Stadium, specifically Farbs, they need to skip the game and go get a new jersey. Okay. Like they need to allocate their resources a little bit better or just wear a plain t-shirt. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. You guys are right. All the helmets are very similar. So it's really hard to say, but even something as small as a white face mask would make a difference. I saw a lot of your mock-ups, Dustin, on the blog. Like those kind of outlandish ones. Yeah, no. At first I was like, oh, that white one looks kind of cool. But I think with the uniform, it really wouldn't look right. So
well, and the thing that I like in a lot of these concepts, I hate the idea of changing up the logo on the helmet. Like, I don't want to see the whole, Norseman on there. I just love the idea of it just being the horn. Like, it's unique. It's, it's represented well. And I hope that whatever they do decide to go with it, that kind of stays. Any of the other modifications are, again, a little overwhelming at times. But that's just my opinion.
I think what to expect is probably a switch for that game or games to a different colored face mask, whether it's gray. What are they now? Black? Isn't that what they are right now?
I think they're purple.
yeah,
Really?
I think it's
purple.
yeah. I think it's just the same purple. All the
First of all,
way
I
through.
scolded myself for not knowing that, but I tried to get the drop on it, and the pictures that I look at seem like they're black. But then I was like, that wouldn't make too much sense. But anyhow, I think they, for that throwback purpose, would go back to the glossy helmet and then maybe the white face mask, kind of like the Tommy Kramer look. I think that's what you can reasonably expect. I don't even know if we're allowed to do one of those, what do you call them? Custom helmets or experimental ones. I don't know if that's within the realm. I think you have to throw back to something. So,
Right.
All right, moving on. I'm
so
gonna
ridiculous. Like, you can't wear these shoes. You can't wear these laces. It's all so silly.
yeah.
All right, socks have to be a certain color. Like, just at least get Adam Thielen to stop wearing the yellow gloves so that when they fall off or whatever, like that. I think you have the announcers yelling, "There's a flag on the field."
No fun league.
Exactly. That is true.
Sally, the next topic is going to start with you, and there's a reason for it. CBS Sports did its power rankings of head coaches, and so did Pro Football Network about a week and a half ago. Our Mike Zimmer came in at 15th, right in the middle, almost, for CBS Sports, and 20th for Pro Football Network. So, of the panel, I Bleav that you were the lowest on Zimmer in terms of your appreciation. So I want to know, how fair is 15th and how fair is
She did eat, in her words, eat some crow last week and about the players coming back and everything. So she's coming around a little bit. So.
I am. I mean, I told you I'm very excited. I've changed my tune a little bit. Okay, well, something I think is important to point out, that CBS Sports list, there's only 16 coaches on it. So he's number 15 out of 16.
I think you only got through one page, respectfully.
It says we're not ranking all of the coaches on it. The other one did rank everyone.
Okay, I thought that like David Cullins. So if indeed you're correct, then I just spread a bunch of random lies on the internet.
Anyway, I mean, I have issues with that list because, first of all, and this is with the other list that you mentioned as well, Arians is number 8, which I think, I mean, the guy just won a Super Bowl. That's a little, to put McDermott and some of the other coaches in front of him, I don't think is necessarily fair, especially since his coaching record overall is mostly positive. Tomlin at number 10, was like pretty crazy, I thought.
Low or high?
Oh, I thought it was high. Don't you?
Really? I mean, I think one, the longevity and the fact that every year he has a contending team, and then last year with Big Ben and his injury. Or are you saying high?
I misspoke. I meant it's a low ranking. It should be higher.
Okay,
Sorry, I misspoke.
Yep. Okay, got it. So I agree with you there.
Then we've got Kev Stefanski at 13. But the real thing that's messed up is LaFleur on every single list is high. So anyway, back to Zimmer to answer your question. I mean, I think given the how it's went and his tenure, how long it's been now, what is it, 7 years? I think that's pretty fair.
Okay.
Oh, for 15, sorry, the 20 I think is way too low on that list. That list specifically ranks LaFleur at 11 and says that because he's 26-6, I believe it is, and they give him the credit for Aaron Rodgers' MVP season.
And like people seem to like they want to dub him this great offensive mind, but then they forget that his last year in Tennessee, Derrick Henry and his touches were limited. In the last 2 years, the dude's rushed for almost 4,000 yards. So I always hate that. Oh, he came from an offense that the offense was efficient, and he has Aaron Rodgers now, so it makes him look better. I don't know. Not a big fan of him.
He blew the NFC Championship.
Yeah,
also. We're not gonna bring that up in any of these lists.
I love the backhanded comments from Rodgers on when he's hosting Jeopardy and who decided to kick the field goal, and Rodgers makes I don't know. But I love when he addresses those type of things. So.
Yeah, I will say, since Dustin has put a gun to my head and made me do these types of rankings 2 weeks in a row, I understand how difficult it can be now to find a place, but 20 is low. I think around 15 is right.
You're lucky I didn't make you do wide receivers. That was tough for me. We have that for the next show with Wes, and my God, that was tricky. I learned a lot of lessons doing that. So stay tuned. Kyla, where's Zimmer on your pantheon of the 32?
Yeah, I would agree with Sally. I think 20 is not good enough, but I think he belongs in sort of that 15th range. I was reading sort of those articles, and I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of blows my mind. First off, I think it's way too difficult to rank a bunch of coaches when some of them have been, coaching the same team for years. Some of them are quite new to the team. Some of them walked into, like LaFleur, exactly, pretty good situation. Imagine getting to coach one of the best quarterbacks of all time in a division that can be sort of up and down.
And burning the bridge with the best quarterback of all time.
Seriously. And there's things about Zimmer that does, definitely piss me off, how we always seem to just, when there's half a minute left before the first half, and we never seem to try and get points, clock management, I could go on, but as well, he's definitely dealt with a lot of adversity, especially his first few years as coach. Lots of things going on, losing your quarterback, losing your next quarterback. And then I don't know. I do feel like he got a lot of the blame, because I noticed online a lot of people said, oh my gosh, after this season, this is a Mike Zimmer defense. These are just some casual fans who don't really know what's going on with the Vikings. But it's hello, our defense was decimated through injury. What do you expect? So yeah, I know, being on Vikings Twitter, there's some people that absolutely despise him. There's some people that, worship him. But yeah, I'm just sort of, I'm totally, I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's the best coach, and he's certainly not the worst coach.
I'll go, and then you can have the last word, Ron. So 20th is laughable. And then 15th is where you start to get in dicey territory. But here's the deal. Since he took over in 2014, league-wide, the Vikings have the 8th best winning percentage in the business. So I think we get bogged down in the micromanagement of the team because we watch every step of the way, everything that they do, that because he's not quite elite, like an Andy Reid or Bill Belichick, we get frustrated and say, well, he doesn't do this well, and it sucks he does this. Boom, put him at 15. And I don't think that's fair. I think that if he has guided the ship to the 8th best win percentage, at the very lowest he could be on a power rankings would be 12th or 13th. So I would put him in between that 10th and 13th character or category if I sat down and did this, which I probably will end up doing for our other show. But yeah, I can't get on board with 20th and 15th is just a little bit of 7 and 9 pessimism that is dripped over. Ron, what do you got? Yeah, Sally.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think, yes, we're talking about the winning percentage, but when that winning percentage doesn't get you to the next level, and it tends to be the same kind of issues in his, it seems his lack of desire to adapt. I think that's where the criticism comes in. If you have two playoff wins, but that's your winning percentage, I mean, that's disappointing. And one of those wins was a fluke miracle, you know? So it's like, and that was after a collapse. Like, they technically should have lost that game. So I think that's where that criticism comes in. Yes, there's that winning percentage, but it hasn't equated to long-term success in a big game.
I'll take your they shouldn't have won the miracle and raise you they should have won 2 years before. And then they balance each other out against the Seahawks.
But that's one win then. That's what you're saying.
No, that'd be back to 2 if you want to discount a memorable win. Then you would have to, I would think, if you're going to examine it based on flukes, then the Blair Walsh miss was also a fluke, right?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about just those 2 games. I wouldn't blame that on him. No. So, okay. I mean, I wouldn't blame that on him. Nobody stepped up to the plate and wanted to get a touchdown. And I mean, it's not Blair's fault either. So yeah. Okay. If you want to bring that up, then sure.
Ron, take us away on this one.
I will say, the 20, yeah, I Bleav that is laughable, because even the handful of new coaches like in the league, like that's, some of them may be great, but like Dan Campbell and all the nonsense he talks, like, there's easily 12 off the top of my head that are worse than him. 15, I would say is a little low, because I think some of the quote unquote good coaches around the league. I know Sally, you referenced Bruce Arians, and for me, I'm not a big Bruce Arians guy. I mean, it took Tom Brady coming there for him to be able to do something, but I'm not going to discount, you do have to be able to put things together. So, but there are some coaches around the league that I feel like get a little more credit than is due, and I'll probably catch a lot of heat from this, but Sean McVay is a perfect example. Like that year he went to the Super Bowl, everything was new, and it was all, he was a genius and all that. So then the next year, what happened? Like they were very mediocre. And even last year, like they weren't this offense that was running up and down, like, and putting up a ton of points. Like they were winning games because their defense was being dominant. So while I do think he's a great mind, I would probably say I'd say he's better than Zimmer. I bet he's looked at higher than what he should be because of some of the creativeness that he brings to it. So, and Kyle Shanahan's another. I think people tend to forget the 28-3 Atlanta game. Like that was, in my mind, 100% on him. Like you have 6 minutes left and you could easily run up the clock or just give the ball to your running back and make, or whatever, just eat up the clock, and you're dropping back and you're passing it. So I think some coaches get overrated, but I mean, I'd say at this point going into the year, if Zimmer's at 15 with the opportunity to move up or move down if things, go bad, I don't take too much into coach power rankings at this point, because I'm sure a few years ago before Patrick Mahomes was there, Andy Reid was probably considered like a 13, 14 ranked coach. And now all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes is in there and you can really see the innovation that he has. So it's such a volatile situation for any coach.
On Kyle Shanahan, his win-loss record as a head coach is 29-35, and nobody cares.
Yep.
Nobody cares.
And it's because they give him excuses. Well, he has Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, who wanted Jimmy Garoppolo?
Right.
Or it's like, that's part of it. Like the same argument can be made for Zimmer with, look at the quarterbacks that he's run through. Like they draft Teddy, and his knee goes out. Then they trade for Bradford, which, at the time, I was 100% on board with it, because if not, we have Sean Hill starting and the season is absolutely lost. So at least they made it where, we can at least have a reputable season and give us fans some hope. So, this, again, I go back to with Kirk being under center. It's the first time in my adult life that, since Dante Culpepper, that we've had a guy that we know that he's going to be the week 1 starter. And it's 3 years in a row that we've had that. So where we haven't been able to say that we don't have the Packer luck when it comes to, 40 years of great quarterback play. So, or 30 years, sorry.
Kyla, we are about 1 month away from training camp in Egan. And there is typically maybe 1, maybe 2 per year folks that start that really weren't foreseen, that kind of rose up the depth chart. So I'd like you to name 1 or 2 players, if any, that could do that for the 2021 Vikings.
I think if I had to pick one player, I'd pick Smith Marquette at wide receiver to be that surprise player. I just don't think, when looking at some of the other players we drafted and their the competition they would, need to beat out to, be starting week 1. I think we all know what we get in the with the wide receiver, like the wide receiver 3 will with like BZ Johnson and
BB.
Chad Beebe.
Yeah, BB, of course. And yeah, I don't know. I think if he has a flashy or if he impresses Zimmer, I think he could definitely be there. Also, like, I don't know. I'm stoked about him because he seems like a cool dude. Like he's like a really, really good water polo player. Like, isn't that
I
random?
didn't know that.
Yeah. So I can't wait for him to be like a superstar on the field. And, on Sunday night games, like they say Thielen was a walk-on. They'll be like, did you know Smith Marquette was a water polo player?
Yeah, we need more personality on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Team, so that's exciting.
Sally, who's yours?
I actually had the same answer. Yeah, like she was saying, I mean, we haven't really had a true wide receiver 3 since Jarius Wright. And so we have been kind of mixing those guys around. So yeah, he definitely could step up and maybe fill that role. So I think that could be a surprise. Other than that, maybe Breland's. I mean, it was a surprise for him to join when he did. So that whole cornerback competition is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it'll be I think the most exciting at camp because they're just all of a sudden there's so many dudes to choose from. Ron, who's yours?
So actually, like the first one I had on my list would have been the same, just because of what he brings as the wide receiver spot is that deep threat, which, we have 2 guys who are great route runners, good technicians, and just great receivers. So why not have a guy take the top off the defense? But with those 2, with that already being covered, I'll throw in Chaz Surratt as a potential. I think his smarts coming from a quarterback, to move into linebacker, like when we had Jonathan Vilma on and, he elaborated on Kirk Cousins, how he called him a linebacker in a quarterback's body or whatever. I think that attitude helps from a linebacker spot, knowing that, if you're a quarterback at every level, you're most likely the best player on your team everywhere you go. So plus you have to have that the intuition to be able to read plays. And I think bringing that on the defensive side of the ball, he clearly has the athleticism, has the size, and the fact that you're not in base 4-3 that often. I could see them bringing him in because of his pass coverage ability. So I don't know what Nick Vigil's strengths are. I know he's a very good tackler, but I don't know about his lateral movement. But I think if you can get another guy with speed to go along with Barr and Kendricks, that only gives them more reign to kind of do their thing. So that would be, you could kind of tap on that rookie tree and name any one of them as someone who's going to be a surprise starter, because I don't think there are very many surprises to be had. I think it's the way the team is constructed. There's a pretty well laid out path to who the starters are going to be.
I think when the Vikings are on defense for the first drive against Cincinnati, I think it will be Patrick Peterson and Bashaud Breeland lined up on Boyd and Higgins. And I think we'll temporarily be flummoxed by it because we're enamored with what Dantzler did the last half of the season. But Breeland's been around longer, and I can assure you he didn't come to the Vikings to be some CB4, CB5. He could be a CB2. I mean, he won a championship, for Christ's sake, as a CB2 with the Chiefs. And every step of the way he starts, whether it's Washington, Green Bay, Kansas City, or now here. So we have to remember that Dantzler is only in his second year, so it wouldn't be unheard of if he's kind of more of the rotational guy, and he can still be great in that role. But I think Breland, especially we talked about his personality, that I don't think he'll allow himself to be pushed to the back of the bus, at least out of the gate. You know, if Dantzler emerges like we hope that he does, even more so, then he'll get the snaps. But I'd be prepared for that. I also haven't ruled out Mason Cole at the guard spot. There was a reason that we traded for him, and we don't know anything about Wyatt Davis' progression throughout the summer. So I wouldn't be stunned if Cole was at the right guard spot, just to start things out a little bit.
So I'm just gonna poke holes in your theory with
Please
Breland,
do.
for a minute. Just on two things. One, Dantzler, I think, has the inside track because he has a year under his belt in the system, and I think that's going to be a huge help with Breland, especially just joining late in OTAs. So that'll be one. But I think the most important part is the two wide receivers you mentioned with Boyd and Higgins, and then Jamar Chase is obviously there as well. But Boyd and Higgins are both tall, lanky receivers. Higgins is being 6'4". I think that will be one where Dantzler will be out there because of the length. Again, just poking holes. Either way, like we talked about before, the depth is there, and I see a rotation being used across the board. But that the length is going to be the reason why I think that Dantzler does get the nod week one. Now, is he the every week starter? That's to be determined.
Yeah, and then I'll reiterate again what we said 2 weeks ago, that if for somehow Jeff Gladney was exonerated in Texas, it's just a really crowded house now. I just don't even know where he fits. And it's so weird to say that about a first round draft pick from last year, that it's like, God, where would he even get time? And it's a good problem to have, but it's very strange because when the season ended, or we started looking at the board for, mock drafts and stuff, we were like, God, we only got 2 cornerbacks, and now we got 5, maybe 6. And then that we haven't even talked about Harrison Hand. So it's a Zimmerian problem to have. And, let's see. Let's go on. We got one more before we jump into the human interest segment that Sally leads. What would be, Kyla, your biggest concern or question mark surrounding this team right now?
Field goal kicking, as usual. It's always a concern. Even when it's not a concern, it's a concern.
The forever open wound that is.
It is. But I guess my biggest concern, like if I'm being, that is a real concern, but I guess I don't have too many big concerns, like really sort of at any sort of area on the team. But I guess it's because there's so many players coming back from injury and so many new players. I guess my biggest concern would be just like, how are they gonna, gel together? But I think that's not there could be way worse things to be concerned about. So
on the field goal kicking, so our buddy Adam Patrick, I used to be on his show. I don't know if I'll be invited back, but I used to be on his show about once a month. And back in the Dan Bailey exodus, Adam floated out the idea, and I thought he was kidding, but then he said it a couple more times, that he would willfully trade a first-round pick for Justin Tucker just to be done with all of this malarkey on the kicking. And I told him that even if it was him, we would be jittery. We'd be excited, like, okay, cool, we got him. It wouldn't be a first-round pick, but somehow we got Justin Tucker, blah, blah, blah. He'd come onto the field week 1 in Cincinnati, and we'd be like, oh, boy, now what's going to happen? We won't be able to get those butterflies out of our stomachs until a prolonged, I'm talking like 2 years worth of a guy being money. It's not going to be just a stretch, because we've had stretches. Bailey was money in 2019. What's our buddy's name? Forbath, besides extra points, was pretty darn good. So I think we're scarred, and that's just a piggyback on Kyla's sentiment, because it's in our bones, and especially us growing up with it, with the kicker crap.
Ugh, nightmare stuff.
Ron, what's your biggest concern?
My bad. Sorry. I think as Kyla alluded to it, I think the continuity, like there are a lot of new faces on that defense. And usually like obviously Barr and Kendricks, they've played together for, since college. They'll know where each other are going to be on the field. But some of these new guys, you may have to worry, like even Michael Pierce coming back, both of our defensive tackles are new. So there's going to be that little bit of learning curve, but I know Brian has made the point before, and giving him kudos, and he's not here, but it's all right. He's the player. He's the one who knows how things are on the field. But going back to, you have a lot of playmakers on this defense, and all it takes is one guy to make a play. So while it would be a lot worse if it was our offense trying to get things in line and a lot of new faces there. But I think that would be my biggest concern, is just the guy, whoever our left end or not, or right end is, might not know where our defense tackle is going to be or how he plays, and might take a few weeks to figure that all out.
Sally, what's yours?
I agree with what was said, but I think bouncing off of that, a lot of these new players are going to be playing special teams, and so what special teams going to look like? It hasn't been great the last couple of years, so that is a concern. And then obviously, yes, the kicking is a huge concern, because I think right now we don't really even, I guess, to go off you guys' point, it really doesn't necessarily matter who it is. So not knowing who it is isn't really that important. But also wide receiver 3, I know we talk about that every week, but it would be nice to have a clear answer there as well, because I think Jefferson's going to get covered a lot more this year than he did, especially early on in the season when he was playing. So I think we definitely need a more viable option for when that does happen.
Mine is different from the panel, but not different from probably their deep-rooted fears. This is the most exciting plan we've had at the offensive line. That I can remember, definitely during the Zim era. It seems like after 4 drafts now of Spielman putting a priority on offensive linemen, that we have the homegrown fivesome, and we should be hunky-dory. But for me, it's Bleav it when I see it, because I would just love to see what Cousins could do with a normal offensive line. He had it in Washington and did pretty well, but he's never quite had that here. And it's just become another thing that's ingrained in us, that our quarterback's going to be on his rump a lot of the time. So I do endorse the plan, but I fear that it's going to take a little bit to coagulate. And so week 1, if some of the Bengals bust through and get Kirk, it's going to be, here we go again. So that's what I'm concerned about, is that it takes longer than what we have patience for the 2 rookies who I hope start, in Davis and Darisaw, to grow up. Right now, what we have fresh in our minds is their scouting reports and how cool they are. But most of the time, rookies take time to mature. Look at Dantzler. Dantzler was at best average until he got hurt, and then he came back on a mission and was deadly in a good way. So offensive line will be my concern, and it's not like my kicker one is vanquished. It's just that I would love to see what a regular 100 times I'll say, just a 16th ranked in the NFL offensive line could do. And to their credit, they usually run block pretty well. So this is all pass protection.
And I think that, like what you just said, what you just said there with the run blocking, I think that's the beauty of it, and being able to kind of get these young guys to work as a team, as a unit together. We're always going to be a run first team, and when you have Dalvin Cook in the backfield, he can make a lot of people look good, and all it takes is a few reps to kind of get the feel for things, where Darisaw is now all of a sudden going to be playing with a little bit of an edge, because you're going at the guy in front of you, and now it becomes personal at that point. So we'll see. It'll be a fun battle, but I like you said, we have a good outlook on it. There will be growing pains, I'm sure, but I'd rather see growing pains with young guys than a Turnstile and Dozier and Samia.
It feels like we care, because for the longest time, we were the only ones on our sofas saying, like, nobody understands this but me. Like, and then finally, after some studious drafting, they finally got the guys they think will work. But for forever, it was like, Twilight Zone. Like, they're just not very good. And finally, they have the ingredients to possibly be good. Sally, what's on the docket for our special fun segment?
Well, last week I think we were going to talk about if we were going to travel to any games, but we went over with Bryant's mom. And I know Kyla goes to away games, and so I was just wanted to hear her perspective on where are some of her favorite places she has been. I know she's went to Dallas, and that's where I've never been, and I'm kind of scared to go there. So maybe if she could talk to us about that to start out.
Well, my favorite, because they're all away games to me being in Vancouver. And obviously my favorite was going to US Bank in 2017. But definitely my second favorite was going to the stadium in Dallas. And it was a Sunday night game, I guess, 2 years ago when it went down to the wire. And I was nervous too. I have family in Texas, and they're all like, oh my gosh, you might get, people might be mean to you or whatever. And I was like, no one cares about the Vikings in Texas. And honestly, like Sally, it was so true. The fans were so incredibly nice. They were so nice. The woman beside me, she was there with a bunch of her family, and they all had traveled from another part of Texas too. So they had to like make an effort to go there. And she like gave me a hug, and like her like niece or nephews like high-fived me. And then when I went, because one bad thing is there's no transit out of like we were staying in Dallas and the stadium's in Arlington, so it's like a 20-minute drive. So transit is a disaster. You basically have to get a lift out of there. So my friend and I just walked to a bar and had drinks and food after the game, and there were Cowboy fans everywhere. We're in our Viking stuff, and every single one of them asked like, oh, did you have a good time? How was the game? Good game, you guys. Like, congratulations. Like, I was utterly shocked. I was like, wow, they were so hospitable, so nice. Like 10 out of 10, highly recommended. They were awesome fans. It actually makes me kind of like the Cowboys now, like a little bit, because their fans were so awesome.
Wow.
Also, they hate the Eagles just like we do, so that's
We
always
bond
fun.
over that. Yeah. That's so surprising to me. I guess I just think of
Yeah.
like Cowboys fans from the 90s and early like 2000s who were just so in your face.
Yeah, no, they were lovely. They were just awesome, just such great fans. And yeah, the stadium is incredible. Like, yeah, it's bigger than you think it's going to be. So
Well, and I know you've been to Seattle a few times. So I
yeah.
am wondering, from your point of view, since you've been to US Bank and Seattle, which one is louder?
Well, it's hard to say because they're both like they're different kind of stadiums.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they were the same, but also the game I went to when I went to US Bank was a game against Green Bay.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like that's obviously going to be so loud.
But there's also Packer fans there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throws it off.
Yeah, but it was loud. But yeah, no, I hate the Seahawks so much, but yeah, no, their fans are super loud.
I couldn't believe how loud it was when I went
Yeah.
there. Obviously, you hear it's loud, but I'm like, whatever. We had the Metrodome, we have US Bank, I can handle it. It, to me, at least the game I was at, I felt like it was a little bit louder. People
Yeah.
get so mad at me when I say that, though. Like, I'm totally disrespectful.
No, it is loud. Like they're crazy.
And especially
some of
if it's
that-
outside, it doesn't seem possible.
Yeah.
Is some of that like, because I've heard, and I'm not an architect, or sound engineer, I have no idea how this works, but is part of it because of how the stadium is built with that kind of little, I don't even know what to call it, like fishbowl shape on one side where sound just like, I've heard grumblings that because of the way it's built, the sound just is directed like towards the field. But again, I don't know if there's validity to it or not, but I don't know. I know they're always up there with Kansas City, and Kansas City, at least, that's like a 90,000 person stadium. So that makes sense why they'd be a louder one, but I don't know.
I think there could be truth to that for sure. But I also think the fans like there, I've been to games where the Vikings aren't playing too. I've been to quite a few down there, and I feel like the fans down there, like, no, they have that reputation to like uphold, to be like super, super loud. So it's just like, no, we have to be the loudest, like no matter what.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. See, like, I didn't think Kansas City was very loud, but also when the Vikings played there last time, there was a lot of Vikings fans there too. So like, that takes, when I've been to Seattle, I mean, there's not really very many of us there. So
It's because they're always Sunday night or Monday night games. So who wants to be out on the West Coast for those?
Yeah, I don't know. I was blown away how loud it was there. So
I have to say my first Seahawk game, it was the Vikings were playing. I think it was in 2002. It's my first ever NFL game. My dad took me, and he's a Seahawks fan, and I was so excited. But my dad was so like, "Oh, maybe you shouldn't wear your Vikings jersey like before you get in the stadium. Who knows about fans?" And I was like, "Who cares? Whatever." I was like in grade 9 or 10, and honestly, yeah, 2002. It's almost 20 years ago, I guess. But the stadium back then was half full of Viking fans. It was nuts.
yeah, their fan, they didn't really come around until they
No, and that stadium had just opened. Like I think that was their first regular season game or second. But it was clear like so many Viking fans came over to Seattle for that. It was great.
Well, Seattle wasn't very good at that point either. And
No.
were they in the AFC at that time too? Or was that must have been their first year in the NFC? Because when the Texans came
Yeah.
around. So.
Well, where's the 12th man? They didn't exist back then?
No.
I mean, what a bunch of frauds. Kind of like the Chargers that were on the list. Yeah. Speaking of frauds.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have fans 2 years ago at all. So
no. Anyway, are you boys going anywhere this year?
I don't know. Every year I always say I want to, but then with the kids and if I go, my wife would absolutely want to go. So it always makes it tough, but we'll see. I don't know, but I was at the Philly game in the championship game, and I did wear my Vikings gear, so I have no problem going anywhere else and wearing purple because the shit we put up with there. Well, one, it just baffled me because again, we got our asses kicked, and they still, feel like they wanted to slit our throats. But I feel like if I can make it there, I can go anywhere. But I've still never made it to Lambeau, and I do want to do a game there, but I do want to do a cold game there. So just to get the full Lambeau experience. So we'll see. I tend to save the planning of it just again because schedule wise for playoffs, hopefully. So I know it will obviously cost more, but that will be a lot more fun than just the normal regular season. So
I got all 8 home games, of course, and I've already.
And those are all travel for you, so
yeah. And I already paid for the playoff games. That's how they do it. So we're all paid up there, and then I'm flirting with the idea of going to the San Francisco game right after Thanksgiving. It's right after. Let's see, it's the Sunday after Thanksgiving and Black Friday, and my co-host on the NFL show, Wes, lives there, and I've never met him in person. So that might be on the docket. Kind of depends on airfare and all that. But yeah, I believe it or not, I've never been to a Vikings road game.
I thought you went to Denver.
I went to their training camp.
Oh.
But I've never been to a Vikings road game.
You've never been to Lambeau?
No.
What?
So the only other road game I went to was the Miami game, I think in 2015. The one that ended on a block, or there's that block punt for a safety that. But that was a lot of fun. We had great seats, and both teams are bad at that point. So, but weather was great, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was the December 21st game or something. So perfect time to get out of Minnesota.
And to reiterate, Sally, you're going to Cincinnati, and what else for sure?
Carolina, but now, I mean, with this revamped Zimmer defense, I'm going everywhere. I have to.
Do you?
Remember, I was like, oh, I'm not looking past like week 6 because I don't want to get my hopes up. Now I'm like, the Chargers, I got to go there and talk shit to them.
So that's one that I feel like if I could get the green light, I'd fly out that day to go to it and fly out right back after if I could. Just
Ron,
they talk a lot of nonsense. So
what I'm trying to do, Ron, before it's all said and done, is go to Staples Center to see LeBron. So I want to pair a Vikings game in Los Angeles.
Do it. It's awesome, Staples Center.
Yep.
If you get a plan like that worked out, I'll meet you there and we'll.
Really? Okay. Well, no, I will see LeBron at Staples before he hangs it up. So I would just like to try to, and it's not easy because they both have to play in the same 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they probably won't play the Chargers again for 4 years.
Yeah, the Rams. I got to see when they're going there, and LeBron probably has.
Oh, sure, they have
2 to 4 years left, unless he goes back to Cleveland. But we shall see.
Do we host the Rams this year?
We host the Rams. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, they last played what was that, 2017 they played? Anyway, okay. So Kyla, are you coming here or what games are you going to?
I don't know yet. This is so lame. I don't have a Vikings game planned yet, but my best buddy jokingly decided a few years ago he was going to be a Jaguars fan because no one outside of Jacksonville is a Jaguars fan.
Yeah.
He actually likes them now, so we're gonna go to Seattle to see that game because it's like once every 8 years the Jags come. But I hopefully want to go to some Vikings game next year because it feels wrong to not see them every year live. So
Are you guys allowed to travel from Canada? Don't you guys have a bunch of weird rules?
we don't even, the borders aren't even open yet, but I'm hoping by football season that'll be better because I'm dying to go to a sporting event. It's been so
Yeah.
long.
For real.
Yeah.
All right, Kyla. So here's the deal. Bryant was a no-show, and for the rest of us three, we're like, oh, that stinks, but we'll get through. But for you, it's probably a big deal. So we'll have you back next week, with or without Kevin Williams or whoever joins. We're pounding on his door to join the show, but it's fair that you get to meet Bryant and be on a show with him. So so long as your schedule can accommodate it, check it out. It'll be at this time next week, and I think that's all we got. Anything else from the rest?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it all.
Yeah. All right. Well, then we'll be back next week with Kyla for a sequel. Hopefully Bryant, once he surfaces, who knows what he's got going on. And that's all we got. Skol Vikings.
Bizarre. Skol.
Skol.
Hey, have a good one, everyone.
Yep. Sally, are you joining the next one or not?
Are we doing that wide receiver thing?
Yeah, you can do your color commentary again if you want. Otherwise, it's not a big deal.
Are we starting like immediately?
Like 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah.
I need to double check something because someone is stopping by, but
Okay. Well, join if you can. Join if you can
the
join.
link. Or it's the
Okay.
same link. All right, Kyla, nice to meet you.
Yeah, and enjoy your 4th of July. I know that's coming up soon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Sunday.
All right, see you next week.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
Later.
Thanks for having me.
Later on.
Yep. Have a good one.